Mrs. Trejo and seconded by Mr. Lemon. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item passes. It was moved by Trejo. Yeah. Yep, and seconded by Lemon. All right, well, would you all please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance. Item 302, may I have a motion for the agenda tonight?
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Trejo and seconded by Mr. Lemon. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Item passes. Item 401, approval and modification of the minutes. May I have a motion?
I move we accept the minutes as published.
And a second?
Second.
Moved by Mr. Lemon, seconded by Mrs. Ewers. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Item passes. Item 501, may I have a motion?
It looks 501.
Yeah, for the
Approval of
consent.
consent agenda as recommended.
And a second?
Second.
All in favor? Aye. So that was moved by Mrs. Trejo. Okay. Let me skip to 601, Dr. Driscoll, Celebration of Excellence.
All right. Good evening, Madam President, members of the board. Tonight I have a few items to talk about. Members of the National Center for Teacher Residencies recently visited Mosley Middle School to learn and observe resident teachers who are currently participating in the Arizona Teacher Residency Program at Tempe Elementary School District. AZTR is the only teacher residency program in the state of Arizona affiliated with the National Center for Teacher Residencies. Visiting representatives from NCTR observed 3 resident teachers at Mosley as they facilitated learning in their classrooms. Observations included residents' implementation of student voice and choice, student talk versus teacher talk, engagement, student learning activities, and relationship building with students. Thank you to Arizona Teacher Residency District Coordinator Willie Shropshire for helping to make this opportunity possible. 3 TD3 individuals were honored by the Tempe Coalition recently at the organization's 7th annual Celebrating Champions for Youth event. Student London Harris, an 8th grader at Connolly Middle School, was selected as the 2023 Youth Champion for her leadership qualities, confidence, and unwavering commitment to community service. During the program, London was praised for her commitment to helping others and doing well in school. Beyond the classroom, London extends her impact by volunteering at community events. 2 TD3 school resource officers were also celebrated as adult champions by the Tempe Coalition. Detective Michelle Reyes, SRO at Cecil Shamley School, and Detective David Larson, SRO at Conley Middle School, were honored with the Protector Award for their service to the community. Our nutrition service team recently took their in-house recipes on the road by visiting students at Carminati Elementary for a taste test of their new creations. They did not come here to Sanchez, and we did not get any taste. And so I just want to let you know that I was very disappointed as I read this over and over today, like I didn't get any hummus, just saying. The nutrition service team has been experimenting with new hummus recipes, and the director of nutrition services, Janae Watts, thought it was important to gauge the interest of their primary clientele, our very own TD3 students, not the superintendent, but we'll digress. Students were able to try 3 different hummus recipes and share their feedback with staff. The 3 flavors were cilantro jalapeno, roasted red pepper, and original hummus, all made from scratch in our own central kitchen. Thank you, Janae, for always keeping our students at top of mind. We are excited to continue promoting enrollment for the 2024-2025 school year with our upcoming open house opportunities for our elementary, K-8, and middle school options. Each event will take place between 5:30 and 7 p.m. and will give families the opportunity to tour the school campus, meet teachers, learn about curriculum, and more. Personal tours are also offered throughout the year, and families who cannot make these events are encouraged to schedule a tour. We would also like to take this opportunity to thank our incredible partners who are making donations to TD3, specifically Chase Building Team, Tempe Diablos, the United Food Bank, Sun Produce Co-op, and the Fiesta Bowl Charities for their donations totaling more than $32,000 for our students and staff. I would also like to thank our very own Michelle Grimaldi, Director of Wraparound Services, for her help in coordinating many of these donations. But wait, I have more. Tonight, we would like to celebrate a recent partnership event that made a difference in the lives of our students and their family members. If you remember our last board meeting, I talked about this at Aguilar. We'll be spotlighting the work of Molina Healthcare as a partner with Aguilar Elementary to donate more than 500 winter coats to every Aguilar student. With help from the TD3 Director of Wraparound Services, Michelle Grimaldi, and volunteers from the DLR group, each student at Aguilar was fitted for a winter coat just in time for the holiday season. It's moments like these that prove just how much the community cares about our TD3 elementary students and their families.
Today we have two different partners that are here to help support kids at Aguilar. We have Molina Healthcare, who contacted us with this wonderful project of providing a winter coat for every student at Aguilar. And then DLR Architects are here helping us try on coats, get the students ready, join in the excitement.
We believe in providing services that go beyond just healthcare. We want to help communities with the things they may not have at the moment so they can think about healthcare once all those other needs are met. So this is one of the programs we have. We provide free jackets to entire schools. And today we're here in Tempe providing almost 500 jackets for all the kids in the schools.
It is very rewarding to see and try on a jacket, pull the zipper up, and then also the smile goes with it up. It's pretty awesome. They get to look for different colors and different sizes. It is very rewarding.
Molina Healthcare, fantastic. The volunteers that are here, everybody's been so positive, so helpful to the students and the staff. Our district team has been great. This is why Tempe works so well, because we've got so many great partners that take care of so many things for our kids and families.
This is just a great partnership, a chance to give back to the community. DLR Group does a lot with the school district, and it's just really important to give back to the kids that are within the community as well.
This is the first time we work with Tempe to do any type of partnerships. I'm extremely happy because we were able to make it happen really, really quick. The thing is that I already have Tempe Elementary School in my budget for next year. And so I think this will be a very successful partnership moving forward. So I'm extremely happy.
Today I will remember the most the generosity of the partners, not only supporting us by providing the coats, but the volunteers from DLR that I just called and said, do you want to be a part of this? And they couldn't volunteer fast enough. So for me, it's that rewarding piece of linking the community to our schools to help students be successful.
I leave these events and my heart's full. The feeling of helping somebody that may not have, it's just an amazing feeling.
The kids are so appreciative. They know that someone has gone out of their way to do something special for them, so they understand how community takes care of each other, how we support one another, building that community piece and making sure that our students know that we're all in this together. It's a great example for our kids, and they just carry it forward.
And that concludes my Celebrate Excellence for this week.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you very much. Item 701, CFO Thompson, you're up. With
And
your
I was
full
so
time.
glad I went before him. So.
Really not wanting to follow that. All right. President Windsor, members of the board, thanks for having me tonight. I'm going to go off script a little bit with some breaking news based on Dr. Driscoll's Celebrate Excellence. The winner of the hummus was the jalapeno cilantro, just FYI. So
I partake of that
was the taste test winner. What?
at Pita Jungle. That's my favorite.
Yeah. All right, so we have the December budget revision. This is kind of the regular thing. We don't always have to do it, but we have to do it if the funding formula changes more than 1% from the original budget, and that would change based on a decline of enrollment. And so that is what happened, and so that is why we're here. There is not a lot that is new. If you've been on the board, this is you've heard this all before. It's kind of a, enrollment's down, funding's down, ESSER is gonna make it okay, but we're kicking the can down the road. But there'll be slight changes on it because ESSER's running out. But like I said, just the regular revision that we have to do every December if there is the decrease in enrollment. And I will get to the exact figures for how much that enrollment did decrease. It was a little under 400 ADM, weighted ADM. So the weighted brings in a lot. That's not just individual kids. There's special education weights, there's poverty weights, gifted weights, K-3 weights. So there's different weights in there. And we have around 14,000 is the total weighted. So we've lost a little less than 400, 2.8% decrease in the weighted ADM. A lot of times we'll just roll last year's ending ADM into the next year's starting ADM. I decreased it by about 0.5% because I figured we're gonna lose some students. It decreased more than that. If you put it in dollar figures, when we're talking about a $100 million budget, the decrease comes into about 1.5 million. So it's not nothing, it's a lot, but it's a $100 million budget. So it's something we can absorb in the carryover we have, but as we'll talk about, that carryover is not gonna last forever if we keep absorbing it in there. So this is the general budget limit, which the ADM is based off the general budget limit. You can see the ADM there kind of ending last year. I decreased a little bit, but it went down even more on the revised part. So that's the weighted amount, a little less than that 14,000. So that enrollment then leads to the revenue control limit. That's the funding level that we get. So if you remember last year, legislature increased that funding formula 2.9%, but then enrollment went down 2.8%, so pretty much washed it all out. Then we had raises, we have insurance costs go up, we have regular costs go up, so that's where the carryover is going to absorb that because we have the savings account, but that we're making the withdrawals from the savings account. It's not going to last forever. So this is the revenue control limit, and you can see the FY23 final budget versus the FY24 revised budget. They're practically the same. So it's kind of that increase in funding, decrease in enrollment, gets it right there. We do have some other stable funding sources like DSEG. That doesn't increase with funding increases, but it also does not decrease with enrollment. So that is stable all the way through. Overrides are a little more stable as well because they're looking on, so the M&O is looking on prior year ADM, and then the capital override is just a flat dollar amount. So there's some stability there. The revenue control limit is what will fluctuate up and down more with enrollment. So as I said, we're fine in the short term. We don't have to lay anybody off this year. We don't have to worry about making cuts right now, and it's not an immediate problem. We've got those reserves. We have the carryover. We're just going to eat into that. So I've been pounding the drum for a few years now about, all right, we have ESSER, so ESSER's this magical cure-all. Like, we got an expense, we can put that in ESSER. We got decreased enrollment, ESSER will cover that. Well, ESSER's done in 9 months. Okay, so we've kicked that can down the road for a while, and it's been fine. I mean, we needed that with COVID and everything. We needed some additional staffing, but just as the reality is, with the decreasing enrollment and the funding that goes along with that enrollment, the time is coming where we're going to have to make some decisions on that. Just in ESSER itself, there are 30 positions that are being paid out of that, 2.6 million. So if you add the 1.5 that we're losing, that's $4 million. If we took all those, if we kept all those 30 positions in ESSER, if we slid them over to M&O, that's $4 million between the decrease and the ESSER amounts that we'd have to find. So there are decisions that we're going to have to make on that. But it has helped in the short term, but that short term is coming to an end now. So we always say, oh, we'll deal with that. We can deal with that next year. Well, next year's pretty much here. So it's kind of everything coming together. You got the decrease in enrollment. We did get about $2.5 million in one-time funding from the state. So the funding only increased by the 2.9% in the funding formula that's going to roll year over year. And then they also added $2.5 million, which is great, but it's one time. So it is just there now. Next year, it is not part of the formula, so it's not going to be there unless the legislature decides to add it, but I'm not holding my breath on that one. The federal funds, not just ESSER and not just positions, but the federal funds have patched a lot of things. They've been there when we have extra expenses that we might need that are one-time things. We've been able to use that. We've had those extra positions. So they've been a great help, but the help is coming to an end. So just to summarize, we're okay right now. Nobody's losing a job right now. We're fine. We got the long-term issues. We had the demographers in here a few months ago talking about this is not a new thing. This is not a thing that's going to suddenly turn around next year. I would anticipate that we're probably going to have enrollment loss next year, just because that's what the trend has been. So we just need to address it sooner rather than later, because the funding is decreasing like that. So this is the information here. We'll have a meeting next week to approve and finalize the budget. But if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them, but just want to make sure everyone is up to date on the situation with the funding.
Mr. Lemon.
Thank you, Madam President. I have two questions. Is kicking the can down the road, that's going to start next school year?
No, I believe we've kicked the can down the road for the last few years, and so we're at the
Yeah,
end of
but
the
when
road.
it ends.
Yeah. The end of the road is next year. Or this year, I guess, if you look at that.
Before next fall?
Yes.
Okay. My second question was, we lost several hundred students. Historically, people have come to Tempe because we serve kids with more needs. Did we lose the same amount of kids that were added into the weighted sort of thing? Or do we know? Or does it matter?
It does matter, and I might have Mel Kelly here to talk about that, but I think that the special education population has not decreased in Tempe. If you look at it as a percentage, I believe it has probably increased.
Yes.
So the extra weight is great and appreciated. It doesn't generally cover all of the expenses that go into those children that need those special services.
Right.
Usually the percentage of the special education students have increased rather than staying even stable.
So it's fair to say, even though we have the weighted things for a variety of different things, it's not covering our needs, and so we're slowly working more on the M&O.
Yes, M&O,
base.
in every district, basically,
Yeah.
M&O.
Yeah, the base.
The M&O subsidizes the special education side.
So we've had this issue. We serve the students. That doesn't bring in all the revenue that we need to pay the people that serve them. What's going to happen when we lose those 30 positions?
Well, that's the discussions we're going to have to make, whether we lose those 30 positions or we move other things around. It's decisions that Dr. Driscoll and the board and us will have over the next few months.
Yeah. Happy New Year.
Well, yeah, and I'm trying to be transparent. I mean, this is, as long as I've been on the board, we didn't get the money from the state or from all the other added, whether it's feds or local money, that helps to pay for those kids with special needs. But we service them anyway, and then we attract those students. And I think that's great. I don't have a problem with that. It's just, how are we going to as our student population, the overall population decreases, how are we going to, because it takes a bigger and bigger bite out of that smaller pie.
Yeah.
Or it takes the same bite, but the pie
The
is
pie
smaller.
is smaller, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I guess that's why I'm asking the question. If we're going to have to have that discussion before we look at what happens with contracts and other things before April, what's our timeline?
Yeah, I would say in terms of timeline, sticking with our practices, January. Into January, we started issuing out contracts using Mike. He's shaking his head, so I'm not saying bad information. So yeah, we will have to start having those conversations. With special ed, I would just tell you, across the board, that's why districts and people have been fighting for years to say, hey, we need to increase special ed funding, because it takes more than what the funding that we get to service students, and we're going to continue to do our best to do that. But the weight helped. They, I want to say last year, or the year before, they increased the special education weight. But I always say with the weight, there's different weights. So a student that qualifies under autism is a different weight than a student that qualifies under a specific learning disability. So they're like, even there's fluctuations on that. And we're just seeing across the board nationwide an increase in students being eligible to receive specialized services. So that's something that's going to continue. I would tell you is not going to be just a TD3 thing. It's going to be a whole nation thing. And we will need our legislators to look in and combat that, because we want to continue to provide services, because there are students and we need to, but we know that there's escalating costs in trying to do that. And for us, in some of our positions, we have to fill with contractors because there's not enough teachers out there to actually support the students. So we go outside and hire contractors to do that work. But we have some critical decisions going forward. What Mr. Thompson keeps saying is that we do have money for, I call it the apocalypse, the superintendent's worst nightmare. But we're going to have to right-size the ship. And what I would say is we're not in a situation where we don't have the resources. We just have to be more efficient and really look at how we are providing those resources and where we're providing those services at.
And Madam President, my last comment is, although we talk about 30 positions that are paid for by ESSER, we have way more than that, people retiring, leaving, our attrition. We have, I've forgotten how many thousand employees we have, but we have a lot, so.
Correct. We do have a good bit of attrition. I want to say 10 to 15. Yeah, 10 to 15%, and we've got about 1,400 employees, 1,500 employees, somewhere around there. So if you're saying 10%, that's 140 to 200 employees every year.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Lemon. Mrs. Ewers?
Thank you, Madam President. The 2.9% extra that we got this year, what was that, where directly was that from? What was that directed to do?
That was an increase to the base funding formula. No, just general fund. No.
No rules or regulations. And then why did they give that to us?
Well, it's statutorily mandated that they give at least 2% when inflation is more than 2%. So they had to give that much more. And then the 0.9 was because they decided to. I don't have any better reason than that for you.
I couldn't get to the bottom of it either. I was just hoping you had the magic answer, but I'll take it. I'm not going to say no, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mrs. Ewers. Mrs. Trejo?
Thank you, Madam President. Was that because they had a budget surplus? They gave one-time funding?
Yeah, so they did a little different budgeting this year. There's kind of almost a piecemeal. Each legislator had a piece of it. And so it was a different budgeting formula, but I think it was some worry about the ongoing sustainability of it. So it's not baked into the formula, so it won't roll over. So I think the concern for that caused it to just be one time.
With the budget deficit now for this next year, we still will get at the very least 2%.
Yes.
Okay.
Or inflation, whatever's less.
Right. And inflation is projected to be about 3.5. Yeah. So
So-
we'll get the less.
Okay,
We'll get
so,
two. We'll get two.
wow. Oh, yes, okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I guess technically inflation could be 10% and they could still just give 2.
And there's a thing that we haven't talked about that we talked about in years past, this thing called AEL, aggregate expenditure limit. And that's like 16, 17%. And so for us, if we say we have a $100 million budget, it's about 16 to 17 million. And this year we're good because they passed a resolution. But next school year, unless they pass a resolution or do something, we will have that we will have to be talking about, normally about the March area where we would spend 2/3 of our budget already, would already been expended, and then have to not, and it's not money that they're giving us in addition to, it's the money to spend that they should be providing to us that would be on hold, which if that happens, that would be devastating. So as we talk about budget deficit, there's that, and then there's the AEL that, like, I've been turning a blind eye to, but I wake up at night like, oh, 2024, 2025 school year, that comes back into play.
Thank you. And the last numbers you've heard, what does the state deficit look like, state budget deficit?
I want to say 400 million, but I can't remember. Okay. I'm going to head nod. So I think that's the last number I saw.
Thank you.
See no other questions or comments. I just have one question. And you may not have this number off the top of your head. I would assume you wouldn't. But I would like to know for attrition conversation, what's the percentage of staff eligible for retirement within the next 5 years? So from now to 5 years. So
I'd have to get that.
you can email to me, it's fine.
Okay.
And just for your knowledge, in case you start getting random questions from me, we did sit through an ASBA initial first day, and we had a big finance presentation. So when you start getting questions from me in email, don't think that it's like a random thing that it's coming from me, but I was educated a little bit more, so I have some more questions for you, but
That's
I'm going to save
fantastic.
them for you later.
Yeah,
All
that's
right.
great.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
We are skipping 801. We have no blue cards, so jumping into 901. We're headed into the second reviews of the last policies that we need to go over. So 901, second review and adoption of proposed changes to governing board policy CBI, evaluation of superintendent. Were there any other questions or comments about this issue or requested amendments? Okay.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the proposed changes to governing board policy CBI, evaluation of superintendent as recommended.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Trejo, seconded by Mr. Lemon. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, item passes. Item 902, second review and adoption of proposed changes to governing board policy EBC, emergencies. If there's no questions or comments, just need a motion.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the proposed changes to governing board policy EBC, emergencies as recommended.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Trejo, seconded by Mrs. Ewers. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, item passes. Item 903, second review and adoption of proposed changes to governing board policy IHA, basic instructional program. If anybody would like to make a motion, that'd be great.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the proposed changes to governing board policy IHA, basic instructional program as recommended.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Trejo, seconded by Mr. Lemon. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, item passes. Last one. Excuse me, nope, 904 is new. So 904 is a discussion and review of policy IJOC, school volunteers. We started this conversation in our last board meeting. This conversation is a review of the policy specifically. Did anybody have any questions or concerns or suggested amendments to the existing policy? And just to have a little bit of background, this was an issue that was brought up by other people, and to have us review this, and specifically for the purposes of fingerprinting parents who are going on field trips. Mrs. Trejo.
Thank you, Madam President. So this is the existing policy, not any revisions?
That is correct.
Okay. Yeah. Dr. Driscoll, do you mind sharing our current policy or review and why it is what it is?
So a long time ago, 5 people came together and they decided that this is going to be the policy. And then a superintendent wrote regulations. What I would say is at some point, every school district in the state of Arizona has some regulation and policy in terms of school volunteers. Where it comes in for us is, I almost think it's the field trip. So policy IJOA and really chaperones, because in most cases, our parents come on our campuses, you have a school event like this. I want to say Miss Franklin was just at Rover, and they had an orchestra concert. And parents go in and they go to the orchestra concert and they sit and they bingo, and that's fine. We don't fingerprint the parents as they come in. But what happens is when we go on field trips, so like the Phoenix Zoo, we have parents who are chaperoning students. And then that where it comes to the point where you're saying, hey, are they under the direct supervision of a certificated employee? And the answer is probably no. They're under the supervision when they're on the bus. They're under the supervision when they're at the school. But when they get to the actual field trip, and if it's a field trip where people are walking out, they take a group of students and they go this way, and the other group takes a group of students, and they're not directly under. And so where it comes from a safety standpoint is the state has regulations for us having employees and people alone with students. Our bus drivers have to have a fingerprint clearance card. Our teachers have to have a fingerprint clearance card. We have other employees who have fingerprint clearance cards, but they're not directly alone with students, so they don't have an IVP card, which is a higher level. I call it like clearance level. And so our district has a practice and regulation that we require our parents to go through a fingerprint, to have a fingerprint clearance card. The district actually pays for that card, and I want to say it's like $20 that we pay and we process. But what happens is if you are a parent and your child says, hey, we're going to go to the Phoenix Zoo next week, you say, hey, I want you to come with us. Yeah, I'm going to come. I can call work, but I don't have a fingerprint. So I'll run to the school and get a fingerprint. Well, you just can't get a fingerprint card that quick. There's processing time. And so that's where it becomes the conundrum, which I believe some of the board members were at a school and a person shared with you their frustration with the process, and you guys being good public servants said, we cannot talk about this because it's not at a board meeting. And so we brought this up. So our conundrum is, do we want to have our parents and really chaperones on field trips to continue to have fingerprint cards? And I would say at first, being total transparent, in a previous district as a principal, we did not have, not this district, we did not have that requirement. Parents, legal guardians could go on field trips with their students. I would tell you that we had parents at that school that I was principal that we had pictures up in our office because they were sex offenders. And by our own practice at my school, they could theoretically go. Another thing with fingerprint clearance cards, they're two separate ones. So the IVP, what's so special about that is if you have an offense, so like you get pulled over for a DUI, if you have an IVP, if you're an employee of ours, we get a hit on it and it says, hey, Susie just got pulled over and their fingerprint clearance card is now under question because they got a hit. With our other fingerprint clearance cards, we don't necessarily get that information. So as a parent, I would feel worried not knowing who's with my kid and my daughter is going on a field trip tomorrow to Herberg Theater to go see a play that me and my wife didn't get lucky to get drawn in the raffle to be able to go. And so there will be people there with our daughter in could be unsupervised situations. And so for some of our community, they said, no, we need to keep that practice. We need to keep that fingerprint card. And I would agree with it. But I think as a district, we need to offer more ability for our parents to get fingerprint cards. Right now, I believe they can go to Brogan. And I want to say we have like a 2-hour window that they can go and get fingerprinted. And what I would propose for you, not change the policies or that, but the regulations, which I can change, where we would offer in our practice more opportunities for families to be able to get fingerprint, having more time. Now, I would tell you in offering that, that's going to require personnel to do it, because in some cases we will need a notary to be present. And so that has a cost. We have people in our staff that are notaries, but also to travel around and get these fingerprints done and have that option. There are also third-party people that we can contract with, that we have on cooperatives and procurement, that we can use and utilize their services that can provide that which we pay. And I think some of the cost is like $30 for some of the lower end that we could do. But I think the bigger issue is providing access to our families to be able to get the fingerprint clearance, because we're already in practice paying for it. At the height, I want to say in 2017, we had over 700 people that utilized that. I want to say I got a document from Mr. McGinney that had said currently we had 660 people do that. And then 394 went outside of our district and got the card separately. But I think for our families and our schools, what they would like is us to have more of frequency that people can get it and be more convenient in the location. I think for us as a district, I would say we need to keep with the fingerprint card for safety. We preach, we want to keep our kids safe, and even if a person has fingerprint cards, that doesn't mean anything bad would happen, but at least the district has done due diligence to say, hey, we've at least taken an extra step to say that, yes, there's nothing in this person's record to this point that we ran this fingerprint card that they will cause us to be questioned. When we do this, and we get people get hits back, and when they do, they have to speak to Mr. Mangini about, hey, this came up on your fingerprint before we let them go, and they have to rectify that. And some parents, we say, no, you can't, because what came back, we cannot have you around any of our students. So, but I think that's the disconnect, is not the school volunteers. It really comes to the chaperoning on the field trips. And it's really the chaperoning on the field trips that are not under supervision or certificated. We have, and you guys will probably approve, there's a tradition at one of our middle schools, Connolly, and I think Fees went last year, where they go to Disney. And they have this great experience, and it's an overnight, but it's not an overnight because they basically are in a bus. So I freaked out when I first got. I'm like, no, we're not doing overnight, but it really, they're in the bus going there and driving back. But we're going to constantly have these experiences where our students really need to benefit from. But I think we need to have more options to give parents the opportunity to be able to participate, because we have this policy and then regulation in place that says you need to have that fingerprint. So I hope I answered your question in a roundabout way. Sorry.
No, you did. Thank you for sharing all of that. And I appreciate the work that everyone puts into ensuring student safety is the utmost importance. So I know for some it may be inconvenient, but whatever we can do to make that more convenient and accessible, like you said, I think I definitely would support and definitely support continuing to maintain high standards for student safety.
Thank you, Mrs. Trejo. Ms. Ewers?
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Dr. Driscoll, for reiterating some of the things the changes that I would like to see. I just want to be really clear for our chaperones. I have been a cheerleader for trying, Mike Mankini just smiled like, oh Lord, for trying to come up with a different, more efficient solution. And we couldn't find one, and I know that Dr. McGinney or Mr. McGinney worked on it tirelessly. So this isn't something that we just threw on the agenda tonight to appease everyone, to say that we were thinking about it. For the last year, we have been looking, both of us and me even asking other districts in other states and other places, what do they use, what do they do? And we're all kind of in the same boat. The quicker services that are online, faster, cheaper, they don't give a long enough history line for me to feel comfortable. And I don't think even if we brought it to the board, they would feel comfortable, and Mr. McGinney did not feel comfortable. It's just not there yet. So the things that I had asked Dr. Driscoll, which he just reiterated, and I want to reiterate again, is getting as many notaries as possible as we can in the main offices. That helps with quickly getting the applications taken care of for parents. For the administrative staff to assist the schools on popular nights where parents are there, where we can help them on, so it's not a burden to the school, another thing they have to do while doing their own event, but have something there that's a table, a quick table, let us help you fill it out. Let us help you do it, let us help you notarize it, let us help you get into the office, and all you gotta do is go get your fingerprint. Well, then going to get the fingerprint, how many families can go between the hours of, 10 and 12? Well, I'm a working mom, I couldn't. So how do we solve that? Dr. Driscoll's working on that. And then the last thing is giving another option. So the fingerprinting system that we use now is a true, just like finger pad paper print system. It's the least expensive that we can afford to pay for. There are other systems out there, so I experimented with both of them to see, and making sure that our families know that if they do want to make a little bit larger investment in this process, that there is a way to go and get it a lot faster with these more electronic places, but you're going to pay the premium. And some parents, they're okay with paying that premium because they don't want to wait 3 months for the card to come through. And the 3 months isn't because of us. The 3 months is because of the process and the all of the regulatory agencies that have to come together to approve these. So when people are so frustrated with us, like they think we're like holding a whole bunch of cards in a closet and we're only going to turn them in on December 15th of 2025, that is not happening. We want to get them in and we want you to volunteer with our kids as quickly as possible. But we're at the mercy of this system that we all know could be better. But at the same time, I don't want to speed it up. I don't want to make it liquidated, because I want to know that my kid, when he's out there, is with the safest people possible. And I believe that every parent wants that for their kid, and it's our obligation to make sure of that. So I'm grateful that this is back on here, and that I wanted you guys to know that we're revisiting it, and we will continue to revisit it. But we'll just need to make some changes that make it more comfortable to our parents, and Dr. Driscoll is very aware of those, and he has to listen to me all the time preach this. And please don't stop volunteering and chaperoning with our children. And if you need help, there's help here at the office to get that taken care of for you quickly. And we're all ready to be as accommodating as possible. So thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Ms. Shears. Seeing other questions or comments, I have a few to add. I asked the question last time, have we canceled any field trips due to lack of, what are they called?
Chaperones.
I'm like custodians for some reason. But do you have an answer for that?
Not that I'm aware of, because we have district staff who graciously go on those field trips. So many of the people in this room are, I've seen, like, where are you at? Oh, I'm chaperoning at this. Okay. So yes, we've had great, our district staff has stepped up in that regard.
Great, thank you for making sure that that question's answered fully, because that was when the staff member approached the board, that was exactly the comment, is that they were gonna have to cancel a field trip. And I was pretty sure that was not how we operate here, because you guys are all conscientious of experiences for our children. That's why we have, innovative ideas to bring partners in, and we have them supervised by certificated teachers. And so I thought about this idea from multiple angles. As a teacher, I know it's incredibly frustrating just to plan a field trip, let alone figuring out all the details of who's going to be there and how many kids are on a bus with how many parents. And, those are really frustrating and additional responsibilities to a teacher's already very full plate. And so I can imagine that it's frustrating to think, oh my gosh, this person wants to go, but they don't have a fingerprint clearance card, and I need this parent because, whatever scenario, I need this parent with their kid, or I need this parent with these kids. Like, I understand that whole concern. But as a parent, which I am, I want equal protection of my child on field trips, just like they are in the classroom. And unfortunately, we don't have a lot of measures to assess whether an adult is safe with children. We struggle with it with staff members, like we operate a lot on faith, but we do basic things like, do you have a fingerprint clearance card? Are you under contract to behave a certain way? We have policies in place to protect children and processes in place to protect children. But yet, when it comes to field trips, we think, well, this is really inconvenient, so let's throw that out the window. And I disagree with that. because as a governing board member, while I want my child to be safe, I want all the children to be safe. So I actually think we need to amend the policy as written, because I think the policy is vague enough that the argument can be made that they should be allowed. Specifically, it says exceptions to the fingerprinting background check requirement include parents or guardians of students who attend district schools. I think that that should actually read exceptions to the fingerprinting background check requirement for the purposes of classroom volunteering include, because in the classroom, they should be always supervised by the certified teacher. And hopefully there's enough education with teachers that they know that just because an adult's in the room doesn't mean you can run down the hall to, take care of copies or whatever. You send the parent to do that, right? So I think we need to amend our policy to be more clear and actually strengthen the statement that fingerprinting should be required for field trips. And I don't even think it should be field trips where the adult will be separate from the certificated teacher. It should just be all field trips. Because there, at any time, somebody's gonna have to run to the bathroom. You're gonna have to divide the group somehow, some way in public locations. I also think that we need to amp up maybe from marketing, I was gonna say attacking, but I mean attracting retired teachers to volunteer, off-duty police and off-duty firefighters. They all have to be fingerprinted. They're an easy resource to say, hey, you want volunteer hours, you wanna continue to be involved with children's lives. Even retired teachers, even though they're not getting a paycheck, they tend to still like children. So maybe they would like to, once or twice a year, come over and hang out with some kids. So maybe if we could just put that out there as a marketing option, because we want people in our community to be involved as well. All right, no other questions or comments? Dr.
So
Wilson?
I just want to make sure, Heather, you got that. And that's not in the policy, it's in the reg.
Correct, you're right, it's in
So
the reg.
what I will do, because it's a reg, I will write it up and have legal look at it, and then I will show it to you because it's actually quicker. The regs I can change, the policies but I will make sure I capture that and send it to all the board. And then at our next board meeting, say, are you good? And then we can change it in the reg.
Good, thank you for the clarification, you're right. Yes. Well, and no, I don't, but Dr. Driscoll can wordsmith it if he wants. I just said exceptions to the fingerprinting background check requirement in the classroom include.
And I'll mock it up.
Sure.
I'll mock it up and send it to you guys. Make sure.
Thank you, Dr. Driscoll. All right, so moving on from that, 9:05, discussion, consideration, and possible approval for the governing board to give Superintendent Dr. James Driscoll direction as to next steps for future planning. Dr. Driscoll, we're gonna let you run with this.
All right, I will try not to be as long-winded. I am not doing the December budget revision, though. It's not my forte. I have a person in the audience, so I think might want to do that. Mr. Trejo? No? Okay. All right, so at our November 15th, if memory serves me correct, study session, we had brought up future planning. We had brought up Ms. Denton's presentation on our class sizes and student enrollment. We talked about, my clicker working? Yes. We talked about strategic planning, our goals, 3.2 and 3.3, identifying reduced barriers to prevent families from attending Tempe Elementary School and programs, and strengthening specialized programs and our school options. We talked about our history, and I gave Dr. Barassi some credit and said, hey, I'm gonna put you on our board meeting again to coach you, the small neighborhood schools. We talked about the vote to close Evans, the vote to close Bustos, Meyer, and McCamey, and then bring McCamey back. McCamey is the school here in TD3. I just want to throw that out there, IB, we're accepting applications. And then school boundary changes. We gave you a synopsis of the 10-year enrollment and a summary of where our schools are at currently, and then where they were at their highest. We then gave you this multicolored grid, brought you back to the 70s, and showed you all the different colors and how our cohorts of students have progressed through our school system from kindergarten all the way through 8th grade. We then showed you our current capacity of open seats. And so this was basically our student enrollment based on our current student enrollment in classrooms and how many students at a 25-to-1 ratio at the elementary, 30-to-1 ratio at the middle schools, and how many open seats that we currently had at that time. And I want to say this was in like August. We then showed you that our current capacity of classrooms were 16,970 and our current student enrollment, I won't give you my Oprah number, but it's under 10,000, 10,000-ish. Ms. Denton told us that our enrollment continues to decline, which we are very made aware of. Most cohorts are declining with the greatest loss between 5th and 6th, that we have open seating based on staff existing at the majority of our schools, and enrollment is not utilizing classroom capacity. We then had Mr. Brammer come in, and he gave us a demographic report, and he reviewed our attendance patterns and gave us projections of what he thought we would do in the future. He broke it down by enrollment by school, open enrollment, and then in-district enrollment, and then he did that for middle school as well. He then gave us projections all the way to the 2033-2034 school year, in which he said one caveat that I always like to keep bringing up because it gives me hope, is that it doesn't have to be this way. And he talked about capture rate. So he said currently we're in the 70s with our capture rate, but he's projecting us to be in the 68% capture rate. And basically what that means is if there's 100 students in our boundaries, we're capturing 66 to 68%, 66 or 68 students. And so he said the reason why he predicts that our capture rate will go down is that one, our districts around us have declining enrollment, but also with the charter schools and the increase, I always butcher it, I want to call it ESAs, that parents will have more choices, so they could go to that school right down the street, Mount Carmel, with the ESA, which they didn't have that ability a couple years ago. So he was predicting with that going up, we would lose our capture rate. He then talked about enrollment and what he expected, the market changing, the housing. He said in some cases that Tempe doesn't really have much growth in that area, but there are construction projects going on. He even pointed out in, I want to say, the Frank attendance area that there was some multi-housing where families would be in. But for the most part, most of the housing, he didn't project we were going to get a lot of students out of the housing projects that are being built. He then gave us his summary. He talked about our out-of-district enrollment has continued to decline. But if you look around us, most of the districts around us, their enrollment has declined, so that kind of makes sense. And that all the active and planning developments add to a large number. Then we had a meeting and you guys gave us options to consider. And so in this slide, we tried to capture every option that you told us to consider. And once you did that and I was looking at it, I said, I don't know where to start. So that's why we're coming back to you today to say, give me further direction of what options do you want us to prioritize and pursue, and then from there I can give you a game plan of what we would do as the district to do that. Some of these options that you provided have legal steps that we would have to do. Others of the options have no legal steps, just us showing you a plan of what we will try to do. So I'll give you a moment to look at this to make sure we captured all of it, because this was from, I want to say, the study session and then the subsequent meeting after that.
Dr. Driscoll, it looks complete.
Okay. So what I'm asking from you guys today is, as you look at this list, are there things that resonate for you that you want me to come back and give you a game plan on, and say, hey, start prioritizing this first, second, third, and then I will come back to you with a plan of how we can achieve what you asked, and I can give you some recommendations if you want.
Okay, I'll wait for lights. Look, it's like a Christmas tree. Mr. Lemon, we'll start with you.
Thank you, Madam President. Based on the demographic information that was provided and the current boundaries of some of our schools, and we're trying to balance out students at each school, doesn't seem to make a lot of sense to me. So I think we need to look at the boundaries and start talking about where they should be to help the people in those neighborhoods, because I don't want to lose them. I'd like to increase that capture from 68% up to 72%. Because we know if the kids have to go on a bus and be bused somewhere else that's away from where their home is and their parents are, that may not be so successful anymore. So I think start with a boundary changes, some sort of straw man that we can look at. You know, I'm an applied geographer, so, you know, I like maps and numbers. You know, I think we need to move in that direction. At the same time, I'm not sure what I understand about the possibilities for Frank Elementary School.
So one of the things that was brought up is an expansion of Frank. So possibly, I think it was said like maybe a K-8 option there. So when we captured it, it was an expansion of that. And I think that came from the demographer saying that there was actually, and that was like our only attendance zone that we had housing that was going to go where they projected that students would come out of that housing.
Okay. All right, yeah, I thought physical expansion, that we just rebuilt it, you know. So, okay, thank you. Thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Lemon. Ms. Trejo.
Thank you, Madam President. I think Mr. Lemon brought up some good points regarding the boundaries. That seems like the first step in order to capture or recapture some students to help balance out some of our school sites. I see some of these kind of overlapped, you know, offer schools of choice. I think those go hand in hand with some of those options, providing a more robust early childhood center, depending on where the need is, I think would be an excellent step as well. But I also defer to you, Dr. Driscoll. I appreciate you asking us, but I know you are the expert in education as well, and I know some of us are too, but I think, you know, we want all of these things clearly, so you help us kind of figure out how do we get there, and how do we get there efficiently and effectively and capture more students and all the things that we want, because clearly we want everything, so.
What I would say to you is I think the boundaries is the first. And what I would say for us is that we have open classrooms. And so one of the things that happened as when we were closing schools, we had to adjust boundaries because we closed schools. And so we have communities where there are schools right across the street that should be their home school that are not their home school, and not because the district was just playing a fun game and just throwing darts, but because at the time that school might have been at capacity and we needed to shift that enrollment to another school. And so I think by doing that, we could get kids closer to their home. And with our state being the way it is, we are open enrollment. So even if we change the boundary to make a kid go closer to home, if they still want to go to the school for which they're already at, they can still go there, and we have open seats. So I'm not really worried about that, but I'm more worried about us making sure that when we say we have small neighborhood schools, that kids are actually scheduled to go to their neighborhood school and not the school that we dictated to them as their neighborhood school that could be 5 to 7 miles away from their actual home. So I think that would help. And then I think giving you guys options of choices. I'll put this out there. The community might not know this, but we've expanded Aspire, our self-contained gifted program. It started as a 4th grade, and now the 4th graders are now in 5th grade, and now we have a 4th and 5th grade at Arredondo. This week, we had an open house, and we opened up applications to Aspire Gifted for 3rd grade, and within 4 minutes, that class was already filled. And so they're programming that we know our families want in choices, but there's even more creative choices that we have in people in our system that have some great ideas that we can keep our kids. Because that's the biggest thing I heard from Brammer is that we are a school district of choice. And I think if we can tap into our community to make sure that we're addressing all their needs, that we could get a better capture rate. I think we can. I don't believe there's a better place to learn than here in TD3, and I believe we can provide our families with as many options. We might not be able to have them on every campus, but as many options in our district to be able to have them be able to say, hey, I'll choose a TD3 school to give that for my kid to have that learning experience. So I would say boundaries, and then looking at programs and schools of choice and giving you guys some options and kind of where that, based on the boundary shifts, where that would make logical sense to look at and explore would be my recommendation.
Okay, Ms. Ewers, you're next.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm going to second Mr. Lemon and Mrs. Trejo that just get her done. Do the whole list. Let's do it. So with that said, because they pay me the big bucks to put the pressure on you, I agree boundaries are incredibly important right now because we do have so many kids that are like, I don't even know why I go to a school that's there. And we can utilize the what we've got for them, keeping choice still available to all of our families, of course. And then based upon what we talked about and specializing our schools, the other thing that I'd really like to continue to work on is helping our young families, our early childhood development. I know we don't get as much support on a legislative level as we'd like for that, but I think we're continuing to be creative on ways that we can support our families on an all-day option. And that only betters our community because we get these kids started at a younger age. Getting them started at a younger age makes our schools stronger, makes them stronger, and makes our outcome better. So those three things, I think, in hand will start to either A, bring community that we aren't capturing, or B, these new families that we have coming in. It gives them every option that they could possibly want or need, and it's our job to give that to them. So thank you. Thank you, Madam President.
All right, so I will chime in as the fourth vote for boundaries, but for a little bit different reasons. I think we should address it first because it's really the only no-cost option on the list. And I think it's fiscally responsible to start with the no-cost option. And it could actually be a cost savings measure if we decrease busing, which has been a conversation for several years now. So boundaries, definitely top priority. Specializing schools options for sure. Reinforcing what we already do well makes the most sense to me. But I do want to address the early childhood centers because I think that it is one of the greatest needs in our community. We saw that highlighted just on steroids during COVID, early childhood centers being desperately in need in our area. But I do want to add to that because I think when we talk about early childhood centers, we often think about doing it like we've already done it. And TPL does early childhood quite well. But I think that what we are noticing with our fourth and fifth and middle schoolers is that we're not providing them with what they need earlier to prevent problems later. For example, we have, this has been decades in the making and predates most of us sitting in this room. We have shifted to an academic focus for preschool and an academic focus for early childhood development. The idea behind that makes sense, except for the fact it has not yielded academic gains in the older years. So what do we already know about early childhood education is that pedagogically, they're not ready for academics. We know that play and role play and things like that are what actually teaches the child. And so if we go the route of early childhood education, I would hope that we do it in a very pedagogically sound and thoughtful way that actually helps the child. And in order for that to happen, we have to bring in more voices of experienced teachers that know that the young child needs a different way of receiving education. So I'm gonna put a big old caveat on that early childhood center because I think that is of profound importance if we really want early childhood education to yield the gains that we're hoping it will. So,
I'm glad you said that the first option you mentioned was no cost, and then you just, it's on record. You heard her say that, so when I come.
this is nothing to bring together teachers to chat, by the way.
Yeah.
Well, except for subs if we do it during the day, but we can figure that out later. I do want to add a fourth option, along with gifted and specialized options. We need to address our middle schools. We know that's where we lose the biggest bulk of our population. They make other choices once they get to 6th grade. We have to address it. It's got to be a bookend strategic attack to bring the kids in and to keep them. So the middle schools I would put in that top 4. So hearing from the board, boundaries, early childhood education, and gifted/specialized options. And then I'm adding middle school if anybody wants to chime in that they agree with that or not. Oh, I got 2 thumbs, 3 thumbs up. Ms. Ewers, there we go, we're good. We're adding middle school to the list. No, not gladiators.
Heather, you took notes on that. Okay, cool.
Okay, did we give you enough direction or can we keep on adding?
I think you need to create an action to say it publicly to direct me to do that. So
Okay.
it can be legally binding so that I can give you what you asked for.
But can we, with the middle school, can we include career exploration caveat?
See the caveats, here we go.
If you put it into your action and you guys vote on it, yes, you can put the caveats in there.
Does somebody want to make it, or I have the notes if you want me to make it? Okay. Oh man, this is the first time doing this without it written down. Eek. Okay, so the board directs Dr. Driscoll to, hold on, let me see this. To take future steps, next steps with number 1, boundaries, revisiting boundaries, specifically for the purposes of decreasing busing distance. Number 2, explore early childhood center options with the gigantic caveat of pedagogically sound. Number 3, build a more robust gifted program and explore other specialized options for schools. And number 4, address middle schools, including career exploration. Which, by the way, putting middle schools on there, I think actually knocks off a few others on that list. See, we're just trying to help you get your to-do list done. We're just helping you. We're here to help.
Thank you for that.
Okay, so that was the motion.
Second?
Seconded by Ms. Ewers. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Item passes unanimously.
Okay. You see the gray hair? I'm getting just for man that Mr. Lemon told me I needed to get a couple
Gray
years
hair
ago.
is distinguished. Okay. Item 1001, I do believe we have reports from standing committees.
Oh, yes, we do.
Mr. Lemon, no?
Thank you, Madam President. I think we had our last meeting of the Tri-District Funding or Finance Committee, right? And that means everything that we've been doing for 6, 8, 10 years, and the teachers and employees have been saving money in the 457B program. It's going to be shifted over to the state. Not going to say state-run, but it's the nationwide. That's where my 457 is. And I think they do a pretty good job. As part of that shift to move those funds from where they were to where they need to go with nationwide takes probably a month or more. So there was a freeze placed on putting more money into the current program. And so in January, it'll start up again with nationwide. I'm not sure if it's going to be the first part of January or the last part of January. But save up your money because you can put a lot of money in 457. You don't have to put $25, a paycheck. So, and then I have on my calendar, we may need to meet again on January something if we need to take additional action. We're all hoping not, but it's, we're dealing with 3 different contractors, and so it's in lots of money, millions of dollars, so, from that standpoint. So, Eric, was there anything else that came out of that meeting? So, thank you, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Lemon. I do have a quick question. Well, first of all, they've been having meetings with the members in order to prep them for this change, and I do know personally that they've sent out the letters letting them know that they can choose different options. So that's all happened. But after this, does this committee dissolve?
Yes, it goes back to the old way where the employees make a choice, either go with Nationwide or not, at least through the district,
Okay.
from that standpoint.
So
And-
after the possible January one, we will only have one standing committee for this board.
I don't think we'll have any.
Well, we'll have.
We'll have
the
insurance.
Insurance.
Health
yeah.
insurance.
All right.
Okay. Thank you for your service, Mr. Lemon. Ms. Ewers?
We were all coming from the Arizona School Board Association conference, and I was trying to be lighter because I had all my holiday gifts to bring, so I'm missing my piece of paper. But in regards to, what's the exact name of our trust? The health,
The Tempe Group Insurance Fund.
Thank you. See, everybody, the Tempe Group Insurance Fund. Oh, that's good. Well, that helped me.
And we
Thank
meet
you.
on Fridays.
We learn something new every day, continue to learn. So the main thing is everybody knows this is going to be no surprise, but healthcare costs are outrageous and they're just going up. They're going up faster than almost any of our costs at the moment. We are very lucky, and I say lucky because we can control what benefits we want to give being a self-insured district. And so what our whole goal is to, every single person that's in this committee, our goal is 1, to keep you healthy, to provide every way that we can keep you healthy, give you incentives to keep you healthy, and 2, to keep costs down so that we can continue to offer you a free program and lower costs as much as possible. And with that said, I'm going to just say it, we are going to be asking for help. And that help is in the way of, 1, when you're prescribed medications, ask if there's a generic. If you can use mail order pharmacy, I know it's not as convenient as remembering at 5:00 p.m. that you could go to Walgreens 3 hours later and grab it. Mail order pharmacy takes a few days. But the amount that the plan can save will, I guarantee you, benefit you in the long run if you can continue to help us with that. We're continuing to look as a committee at newer, better ways to help you stay healthy. And the one thing that I want to commend is Sandra on making sure that there's a lot of programs that you can participate in that will give you an incentive for doing your tests. And a lot of people say, oh, well, those cost and this and that. I'd rather pay a couple $100s to find out that you have a $500 problem than a couple $100 to find out that you didn't take care of a problem that's 10 years old and now it's a $200,000, $300,000 claim. If you don't think that happens, it can happen very quickly. So we are incentivizing. Please make sure that you look at the flyers that come from Sandra on ways to win money, literally money, and ways to win like fun. She's always coming up with fun promotional things. So we want to keep it as a district self-insured. That allows us to get you naturopathic care if that's something that you want, which other main healthcare providers will not provide. It allows us to look at better ways to help you with physical therapy, and knowing that having to leave your class, and I point because a board member is in need and it's taking a lot of her day. Oh, sorry. Well, you were humbling in. Was that help? But it takes a lot of the teacher's day, right? Like they got to get a substitute so they can be to the doctor by 5:00. Well, let's look at some solutions where you don't have to get a substitute and you can stay at school and you can at school when you finish school, get some help. So those are just things that we're trying to be more cutting edge on and continually helping you. I just want to let you know that this committee is very fresh in ideas, and they don't take no for an answer. And we would just appreciate if, one, you take care of yourself first, because just like they say in the airplane, if you don't put the oxygen on yourself, you can't help the others around you. Two, look at the incentives, participate in them, get some free gifts. Three, to just, if you can, focus on your prescriptions and focus on and mail order and generic, because there are some pills which have a high advertising budget. If you've ever watched a television show at 7:00 p.m., every single one of those that is listed is on the top of the chart for the most expensive medications there are in the nation today. They could literally bankrupt us. And there are generics for many of those that are out there. Now, if you can't get a generic, we are very sympathetic to making sure that you get the things that you need. And there's no one that said a word about it. But it would just, we ask you kindly to help us help you, because our goal is to continue to keep the costs down for you and keep the care up. So I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ewers. Ms. Trejo has a question.
Thank you, Ms. Ewers and Madam President. I don't know if anyone saw in the news, I believe it was today, the governor released the recommendations for teacher recruitment and retention, and one of the things that was highlighted as recommended was exploring insurance options, possibly shifting all teachers to the state retirement or state insurance system. I don't know if that would save money, but that's something for you guys maybe to consider and explore, because I know there's been a lot more chatter about it more recently in the last year or two. And now that's the governor's recommendation from our task force is probably going to be a thing. So if that saves money for everyone, the district, the families and staff, great. But I think it's possibly something you should probably be exploring, because that's probably going to be coming down the pipeline, because it may be not the case. I don't know. So thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Trejo, and I'll take that back to the board.
I had one question, Ms. Ewers. Is it Banner Aetna? Is that the insurance that we use here in Tempe? Blue Cross Blue Shield? Okay. Never mind, I won't say it then. Thank you, Ms. Ewers. Okay, item 1002, student activity report. Are there any questions about the October 2023 student activity report? I'm waiting for a question for this sometime before I'm done being a board member, by the way. Super excited for that to happen. And then 1101, board members' points of information. Is there anything anybody would like to add for this evening? Ms. Ewers?
Of course there's something I want to add. Yay for holidays. I just want to thank our schools for being inclusive on the holidays as we start the holiday season starting tomorrow with Hanukkah. And my son has been bringing home information about Kwanzaa and information about all of the unique holidays that what makes us so special that our children participate in and celebrate. And so holiday season has started at midnight tonight, and I'd like to tell all of our families and wish them all a wonderful, wonderful, happy and safe and healthy holiday season. With that said, kids at Aguilar, I saw y'all got jackets. I'm going to help the principals and teachers out. Right, put your name in your jacket. I knew. See, that's going to give me some points with some educators right there. Put your name in your jacket. Happy holidays. And I also would like to thank the community. We have all been participating in the Arizona School Board Association conference, end of year conference. And I know that Mr. McGinney, Mr. Thompson, and Dr. Driscoll love when we go to these things, because we continue to text them like, are we doing this? Or we should think about this. Or have you thought about that? Or can you send me the number on this? And I need it like right now because I'm doing an assignment in the middle of this. But continuing education is important. Here we want our little ones to grow up and be active in their community and do the things that they want to do. And then we kind of forget about school, and we're going to school, and you guys have sent us, and I thank you for that, because I believe it makes us a stronger board. It makes me a stronger school board member. There's some things today that I learned that I didn't know before. I didn't even know that I didn't know it, right? So thanks to the community, and with that said, I look at the donations we get, and I'm grateful to live in this community. And I'm grateful for what our district is doing to reach out to them. We have a lot of kids that need our help for the next few weeks, and they're going to be out of school for 2 of those weeks. And I know that we will make sure that they are taken care of with food and as much as we can provide. But there are several hundred of them that don't even have shelter. So just as a community, look out for those kids and those families. I think that if there's a gift that we can all give, it's just to be aware of what's going on around us for our kids. Sorry to get emotional, but this is what it is. Thank you, Madam President, and happy holidays, everybody.
Thank you, Ms. Ewers. I just want to add that the ASBA training today was a great reminder to me of all the good work that we're doing here in Tempe Elementary. I feel like we have been consistently doing good work for a number of years, but the last couple of years it has really ramped up, and it has been a honor to be a part of, in a small way, all of the work that happens on a daily basis with the good people that are in Tempe Elementary. And it is fascinating to sit around tables with board members from all across the state and listen to what they're doing, and lots of good work happening other places, but really just kind of looking, Allison and I ended up at the same table, and we're like, oh yeah, we're doing that. And it was great to just remind ourselves that a lot of fabulous work is going forward. It's innovative, it's cutting edge. While there's still obviously room for us to improve, as always, and to refine, we are on a great trajectory, and that's great to see. So thank you for that. With that, let's move to 1201, announcements and upcoming events. As we've said now a few times, the ASBA 66th Annual Conference will be held December 6th through the 8th at the JW Marriott Desert Ridge Resort. The State of the City address will be Friday, December 8th from 7 a.m. to 10 a.m. at the Omni Tempe Hotel at ASU. The Fantasy of Lights Boat Parade will be Saturday, December 9th from 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. at Tempe Town Lake. There will be an agenda committee meeting on Wednesday, December 13th at 11 a.m. The Sanchez Stars Employee Recognition Luncheon is Wednesday, December 13th from 12 p.m. to 1 p.m. here in the Karen Arredondo Governing Boardroom. The Geneva Epps Mosley Middle School ribbon cutting ceremony will be Thursday, December 14th at 10:30 a.m. with a community open house at 5:30 p.m. lasting till 7 p.m. at Mosley. The winter break, yay, will begin on Monday, December 18th. School resume on Wednesday, January 3rd, 2024. The next regularly scheduled governing board meeting is Wednesday, January 3rd at 7 p.m. here in the governing boardroom. The Tempe Elementary Love Your Heart 5K, sponsored by TEEA, will be held Saturday, February 17th at 8 a.m. at Kiwanis Park. With that, may I have a motion?
Madam President, we have a board meeting, I believe, December 12th as well, for the budget.
Oh, thank you. That's right. We have a 12:45? 12:45 virtual board meeting for budget. Thank you for reminding us of that. All right, with that, now may we have a motion to adjourn?
Madam President, make a motion to adjourn.
Moved by Mr. Miller, seconded by Mrs. Trejo. All in favor? Aye. Aye, meeting is adjourned.